We are learning, again, we're continuing with the year 1970, Tafshin Lamed, and we're learning Hachodesh, Shmini. So it's the same layout as this year, where Shmini is a Chodesh. It was also obviously a leap year. So the Rebbe starts off page 10. The Rebbe starts off like this. Parshas Hachodesh Nikra B'Shem Zeb Pashtus. Why is this week called Parshas Hachodesh? Hashem Aschol Sakriya B'Torah, because that's the beginning of the reading, the extra reading of the Torah that we do for Parshas Hachodesh, which starts off Hachodesh Zelechem. This is the month, the new month.
What's Pashtos?
Sorry?
What is Pashtos?
The simple reason. Pshitos means the simple.
Yeah, like, okay.
The simple reason why the week is the Parsha is called Parshas Hachodesh is because that's the opening verse of the reading. Al-Vakivan Sheshma Milsahi, since the name means something, it's not just that we're looking for a word. And this is an idea that Rebbe said many times. And this is also a custom that's used based on the customs of the Jewish people, which is Torah, that when the Jewish people make something into custom and has value, it's not just because people do it this way. I move into Hashem Parshas Hachodesh is obviously it's simple that the name that we call Parshas Hachodesh Moira Gamal Teichen Shel Parsha Inyan Hachodesh. It's coming to teach us not just about the opening verse, but this is what we're reading about, which is the idea of Chodesh. What is the idea of Chodesh? So Inyan Shel HaChodesh Pashtasu, the simple meaning of the word Chodesh means Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the month. Ukedivrei Gemara. Like we know, how do we know that Chodesh means the beginning of the month? Because it says over here, Ksiv hacha b'yom hazeh bo midbar Sinai. This is the language of the Gemara. The Gemara says that when it says b'yom hazeh bo midbar Sinai, on this day they came to Midbar Sinai, meaning on their travels from Egypt towards Midbar Sinai prior to Matan Torah. So it says on this day they arrived in Midbar Sinai. We don't know what this day is. So then we have another verse, which is our verse in this week's reading of the Hachodesh. You have Chsiv Hasam over there, meaning in this week's parsha. This week's extra reading is Hachodesh Zelechem. The Gemara learns just like when it says to Moshe in the Hachodesh Zelechem on the first of the month of Nisan, it is the Rosh Chodesh. So from this we learn that Beyoim Hazeh and Hachodesh Hazeh, we use the word Zeh as a Gzeira Shava to teach us that Bayom Hazeh is Rosh Chodesh Sivan. So the Gemara takes that the simple word of Hachodesh Hazeh means Rosh Chodesh, because otherwise it wouldn't be telling us anything. We still wouldn't know the day. So we're trying to figure out what day did they arrive on Mount Sinai by Har Sinai. So because Hachodesh Hazeh simply means Rosh Chodesh, so too Hayom Hazeh, using the word Zeh as a Hekesh, is also Rosh Chodesh. Okay, that's a Gemara. Avlaf became. Nevertheless, the Rebbe says, we don't find that it's called Hachodesh. It's called Rosh Chodesh. It's not called Hachodesh. Stam. And that we should read every Shabbos Mevarchim, we should read a special reading about the new month.
You know what? I'm a little confused because you're saying this year is like the year that this was written, that Shmini and Hachodesh is the same week, but it's not always the same week. So why is it saying that's putting it this way, like it's as if it is?
No. First of all, I was just saying the reason why we as a group are learning this Farbrengen of 1970 is because 1970 was the same layout as this year. So if we want to
that part I got. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
So in the Sikha itself, the Rebbe is trying to understand. He's obviously getting to an explanation that what is the reason for the name? This is called Parshas Hachodesh. You could call it other things, Parshas Hachodesh or Parshas Rosh Chodesh, Parshas Korban Pesach, which is the main topic
but not related to Shmini.
No. So far we haven't entered Shmini yet.
Okay.
One other question. How did they decide what we were going to read in the Torah for this event coming forth?
That was decided for Moshe Rabbeinu. That's already established from the beginning that we should read. That we should read a Chodesh before Pesach. But Aval became Loimatzinu Shekol Chodesh Shabbos Varchim Hachodesh Yikra b'Shem Hachodesh. We don't find that we call the Shabbos Hachodesh. So the name, the point being is that Hachodesh Ezel Lachem we say is Rosh Chodesh. Hachodesh. This Chodesh means Rosh Chodesh, but it doesn't say anywhere that it means Rosh Chodesh, and we don't apply it to every Rosh Chodesh. But here by Kriya B'Terem Yechedes Akshurim Inyan Hachodesh, we don't find that we have a special reading in the Torah that's connected to Shabbos Mevarchim. Kamay b'Shabbos Mevarchim Chodesh Nisan, B'Rosh Chodesh Nisan K'Shachol b'Shabbos. Only time we find that there's a special reading for the Shabbos Mevarchim or the Shabbos Rosh Chodesh is in the month of Nisan. When we then moving from this is understood. The Rebbe is building up to something. Even though the Rebbe is going to come to teach us something, because this is I did learn the mimer this week of this Farbringen. Is the concept of Hachodesh. We're going to get to what that is yet. We don't know what that is, but the point is that from this is understood. Every Rosh Chodesh has the message of Hachodesh, the month. And whereas it mainly starts off in the month of Nisan, and every other month draw inspiration or energy from the month of Nisan. And all the other months take from the month of Nisan. As it says, that this is the month for you, the first of the month, the head of the months. The first it is to you, to the months of the year.
So why are there 4 New Years then, not just Nisan, the 3 others?
Oh, there's many New Years. The Gemara Rosh Hashanah goes to all kind of New Years, but we're talking about the New Years of counting for the regular people. Rosh Chodesh Nisan is a new year for Geulah, new year for kings, new year for certain, for like, for instance, the year of the king, people say the year of the king so-and-so. So the year of the king so-and-so starts from Rosh Chodesh Nisan, even if he became king, let's say, let's say if someone were to come be crowned, coordinated in Adar, at the end of Adar, today. So but from Rosh Chodesh Nisan on, it would be in the 2nd year of his kingdom, even though it's only a few weeks, because it starts a year for being a king. But there's different Rosh Hashanahs for different things. Rosh Hashanah for trees, we know, is Tu B'Shvat. So he says, the main thing is Nisan. And from there we draw energy of the message of Hachodesh. This is the month Rishon Hu L'Shem, the first Chod of the months of the year. Rishon Daika, it's the first. Milashon Roish, the Rishon, the word first, which we call Rishon, also has within it the letters Rosh, which means the head of the year. And this is the idea the Rebbe speaks of many times. We don't call it the beginning of the month; it's the head of the month. A head includes within it all the energy of the month. Like the head has in it all the energy of the body, versus the word beginning is just the beginning; it has nothing to do with the middle or the end. Bedugmas haroish, just like the head, Sheba Adam shekoilas achayis shekol haguf, has all the vitality in the life goes through the head. And it goes through the rest of the body. And so too. Koil Chodesh Nisan, the month of Nisan, includes within it as Kol Chachi Ashana, all the months of the year. It's the source. So the source of the new month, which is based on the lunar year, starts from Nisan. Tishrei is the beginning, is the first when we count the days of the year. But the new months of the year, and the new month is the month of Nisan, and that's the source. Like the head is the source, and just like the head gives off energy to the rest of the body, so to Nisan gives off energy to the rest of the new months, and from the new month gives off energy each individual month.
So the calendar is lunar, but isn't it? It's also solar. The Jewish calendars.
We count lunar. We count solar only for the holidays. That's why we have Chodesh Aviv, and we leap the year, and all that is because of to have the Tkufas Hashana. Tkufas Hashana means that the times of the year that certain holidays have to fall out on, Tishrei as well as Nisan, even though we emphasize Nisan, but it also includes Tishrei, is that we should have the Tkufas Hashana, but we mainly count the lunar calendar. So the Rebbe said like this. This is also understood according to the Kabbalistic teachings. Yedua, it's known. Sheyud Beis Chachi Hashana, the 12 months of the year, B'Shana Ibra, and a leap year, the 13th month. Hem Keneged Yud Beis Tziruf Shem Evai. Go according. We know that the number 12, like the division of 12 hours a day, 12 months a year, are the different ways to put together the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. So there's 12 different ways of tziruf. Tziruf means to combine the letters and the numbers to make up of the name of Hashem. And like each month has its own connection, so to say, to the name of Hashem. That's why Al Pi Halacha, according to the law, The Alter Rebbe says that a person always has to, when they learn Torah, has to concentrate that they're connecting to Hashem's Torah. But you can't think about that the whole day while you're learning. If you're learning, let's say, an hour straight, you can't concentrate on what you're learning and also concentrate that you're learning God's Torah. So the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, and he brings down that you should, before you start learning, say this, now I'm learning Hashem's Torah, and then throw yourself into the learning. But if, let's say, you learn over an hour, let's say you were to learn 2-3 hours, at the end of the hour, you reconnect to Hashem. Why? Because in each hour starts a new tziruf of the Shem Hashem. Even though 4 letters can make up 24 different combinations, because there's 3 of the 4 letters, 2 of them are the same, i.e. the letter Hey, Beis Hayin, Kamavur Bashar Yichud Vamun, as brought down in the second part of Tanya. Shekol Eis Yamshacha Chais Koich Miyuchad, and each letter brings its vitality. So even though there's 4 letters, and 4 letters should make up 24 combinations, but but one of the letters is double, is Hey, and because it's double, the letter itself is what is the source of the energy. So therefore, it's really only 3 letters. Lakach Gam Tunas and Biksav Kol Eisi Betmunis Miyuchadis. Pratis Hamoira Al Tzir Amshachas V'Iskalsa, or there the Rebbe is teaching us Kabbalistic ideas that the reason of the design of each letter isn't just to give a design of a Gimel and Dal, so we should know what is a Gimel, what is a Dal, because we can't have the same letters looking the same. But it's the actual design is connected to their energy that they have. Therefore, there's only 12 combinations and not Chavdal and not 24. I'm not going to check the math if it's accurate, but I'm assuming that obviously it is. The truth is, the Rebbe says, sometimes we do count 24 combinations of the name of Hashem. Because then the day we know that the 2 Heys are not exactly the same. One is a pnimi, one is a chitzayni, one is an external, one is an internal. So therefore, there are some times that we do count the 24-hour combination. It's brought down obviously in different places of Kabbalah.
That's why each time you start a new hour, a new section, it's going on the 24.
It's going on the 24. Yeah, but I think even, I'm not sure if it applies to the 24 hours a day, because I think the day is really divided into 12 hours, day and night. And Jewish time isn't regular time. Like we have regular time is 24 hours, 60 minutes in 60 minutes an hour, 60 seconds in a minute. But Jewish time goes according to the light time. So if you're going to have winter is going to have shorter days, so the 12 hours of the day is divided into smaller portions of time. In the summer, where there's a longer day, especially it's in Alaska or something, you have a long day, so then the 12 hours is divided into longer periods of time. Let's say what would be by us an hour would be an hour and a half. So I'm not sure if the 24 goes like what you're saying throughout a section of the day, or it's 12 times 12. But it could be you're right. Sometimes you do count 24. Is brought down, and repeating myself. As it's brought down in the Geras Tshuva from the Alter Rebbe's part of Tanya. Tshuva Tata, that the lower Hey, meaning the second Hey of Hashem's name, is connected to Tshuva Tata, the lower level of Tshuva, and Hey Ilah is connected to Tshuva Ilah. The higher Hey, meaning the second Hey, the second letter of Hashem's name, is connected to the higher level of Tshuva.
What is the lower and higher level of Tshuva? I've never heard that before.
Yeah, we have to. This is discussed at length in the Geras Tshuva from the Alter Rebbe. But just quickly, the Tshuva Tata is basic Tshuva, where you repent for your sins. Tshuva Ilah is not about sin; it's about more the return, and it's about returning v'nefesh v'tashiv ruach el Hashem, that the spirit goes back to God. Now, Tshuva Tata is basically fixing, as I am a person here in this world. I made mistakes. I need to fix it. Tshuva Ilah is not about you, and it's not about your mistakes, and it's about returning your spirit to God. It's a much higher level, and it's not something that could be achieved. The Rebbe in the later years, from the 60s onwards, the Rebbe would talk about Tshuva Ilah. The Rebbe says that before Mashiach, people are going to reach Tshuva Ilah. But Tshuva Ilah is more a very high level of Tshuva, of much more level.
So that should be now.
It should be now. Hopefully we should start feeling it. The Rebbe says it's not a contradiction. Here the Rebbe says it's not a contradiction, because sometimes we look at the Hays as one message, and there's equal. Ki'imo bita, like the mother, the daughter. So the mother would be the higher hay, the daughter would be the lower hay. Hainu Shabina, which is the mother, hey Rishina, Hikamai Malchus bita is like Malchus, which is the daughter, hey Achroina. The Gabinanim Elu, Shabahem Nichel, Gam Indian Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh has this idea that Bina and Malchus on the same level, whether the Rebbe is going to discuss it or not, I don't know yet. But therefore, we only count 12 combinations. There's sometimes that we break it down a little more, that there is a difference between the first and second hay of Hashem's name, and based on that, we count 24 combinations. Okay, that was just saying a side note. And so based on the fact that there's 12 different ways of a combination of the four letters of Hashem's name, each month has its energy according to its combination of the letters. Therefore, the months are different. Nisan has its energy, Iyar has its energy, and we speak about that. We talk, comes Iyar, everyone gets excited. Ani Hashem Rafecha. It's a month of healing. Comes Nisan, it's the month of Geulah. Comes Av, it's whatever Av represents. Comes Tishrei, it's Tishrei. So we know that the months have different energies. Each month has another combination of Hashem's name. The idea of Shem Havaya is creates. It creates another energy. Therefore, it creates in another way. The month of Nisan is something else. A lot of people wait for the new month. They're excited for a new month because something else is coming around the corner. So the first, obviously, is the main one, where Yud comes first, then goes followed by the Hey, then goes followed by the Vav, followed by the Hey. That's the regular way you combine the 12 letters. After that comes Iyar and the other months that have the other combinations. The Rebbe is explaining basically through, it's based on Kabbalah, that the Rebbe said before, that the idea of a Hachodesh is Elachem, that the idea of Chodesh is all in Nisan, and from Nisan gets distributed like a head to the other months, is based on the fact, first of all, that the first month is the way Hashem's name is properly written, which is the order of Yud Kei Vav Kei, and therefore from there, only when you start with the original and the way it's supposed to, and the main way it is then you can start taking energy in different kind of combinations.
So Nisan has the Yud Kei Vav Kei, but what about Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year?
No, so that's discussed. I mean, the head of the year is because that's the way things are in the world. The month, the Teva, the beginning of nature is Rosh Hashanah. The beginning of miracles of beyond nature and Soviv is Nisan. So therefore, the name of Hashem is outside of Elokim is the world. Therefore, when we talk about Shem Havaya, we're talking about outside the world. Therefore, we start with Nisan.
What are the combinations for Rosh Hashanah?
I don't know. One would have to check. But the Rebbe says, therefore, this is what's unique about the month of Nisan. Because the month of Nisan is the way Hashem's name is in order, the way it should be. Well, I shouldn't say it should be. Each one is the way it should be. I'm saying the regular way. Therefore, because it's the way it's the Seder, the way it's regularly, therefore it has within it the ability to include within it all the possibilities afterwards. To come from it. Means, in general, anytime you have combinations, you first have to start with the way it is. And from there, you could build that the way it is defines the energy. And then only once it's defined could you start recombining it to make other kind of small sub-energies. But you first have to have the main energy. B'nimtza. Nisan, what's the point of all this? That what is the month, what's the energy, the power of the month of Nisan? Based on the Kabbalistic teachings. This goes according to what we just said before. The Pashtus HaKosef, the way the simple understanding of the opening verse of the reading for this week is Rishon Hu Lachem L'Chat Shana. It's the Rosh, it's the head of all the months. The Rebbe says this is very important for the Jewish people. Isa b'Medrash, the Medrash teaches us. Once God decided, in the word Bechira, He chose the world, that He wants to have a deep. What does it mean? He chooses the world. He chooses to be revealed in the world. He wants a temple. He wants revelation, or He wants revelation that's going to be represented and enhanced via the temple. So in order to, in the world, He decided, He established the beginnings, the months and the years. time, space. But once he chose Yaakov and his sons, means the first choice is in Teva, nature, in creation. But once, hey, Reb Shimon, on page 12, Gimel. So once Hashem chose Yaakov of Yaakov and his sons, the next stage within a deeper choice. Then he chose the idea of the beginning, the first month of redemption. So Geulah only came once he was Boicher Yaakov Vanav. Only means creation, that there's a nature, that there's a cycle, there's a world, there's ups and downs, there's wins and losses. That's when God chose the world. When he chose Yaakov and his sons, he chose the Jewish people, then he chose the concept of redemption. The idea that there's months, like you asked Shana, what's the Rosh Hashanah? The idea that there's months based on the creation, that when God chose to be his focus to be revealed in this world, that answers your question. That he chose for Olam, for world. So Tishrei is the first month of the year. That's only the way things are naturally, right? So we get overwhelmed by Teva, but that's a choice in Tishrei. Taf, Shin, Reish, going from the letters upwards. The last letter first, the second to last letter is a Shin, third to last letter is a Reish. He boyfin shachaydish Tishrei hurshchaydish aval zeu rakafis sheseidu al pi teva olam. Boyfin shezer v'vikatzi v'kar v'chayim v'kayitz v'chayir v'yayim v'la leish baisu. That the season, zera v'katzir, the sowing of the cutting, the cold, the heat, the summer, the winter, the night, the day, leish baisu never stops. The cycle of creation, the cycle of nature. But once God chose within creation, that who does he choose to get the revelation? Is Yaakov and his sons, the Jewish people. And that's another month. That's the month of Nisan. Hachodesh Nisan. Hachodesh shel Geulah, the concept of redemption. The Jewish people are not redeemed. They represent redemption. Like we learned yesterday in the class in Bitachon. Bitachon is not about the end of what's going to be the result. It's the trust itself. Jewish people are the concept of redemption. The fact that we need to be redeemed is only because we are the concept of redemption. Redemption is itself an entity. So when God chose Yaakov and his sons, then he's Chodesh Nisan, Chodesh Geulah. He chose Geulah. Beyond nature. The word Nisan, that has two nuns in the word Nisan, right? Nun, Samach Yud Nun, Sofit. Shemoyer al Nisi Nisan means the miracles of miracles. As the Gemara says, Haroya Huna b'chaloim nes nasalai, Chanina nunim harba nisan nasalai. That if a person sees Huna in his dream or her dream, which has one nun, so you'll have a miracle. If you see Chanina, two nuns, then you can have miracles of miracles.
I forget, why is it that Nun is not in the Ashrei?
Because that's Soymach Hashem l'chol ha'noiflim. That when we're talking, the Nun also is the first word for nefila, for falling down. So David HaMelech didn't even want to mention the word, the concept of falling. So he skipped falling and he hinted the letter Nun in the Samach. Samach is Soymach, support. Soymach Hashem l'chol ha'noiflim. God supports all those who fall. So he didn't even want to put it in a separate verse, the concept of nefila, falling.
No, so could have stood for Nisan and Nisan.
It's a good question. It says, sometimes you don't, because it could go either way. You don't even want to, you don't even, when people are talking about the one way, if the content is going in one direction. So you'd rather skip the good to avoid the bad than to say the good and maybe it'll be taken as bad. That's just my own idea. So the Rebbe continues. This is in a way the Rishon Hulachem L'Chad. What does it mean that Nisan is a concept of Mishabacher B'Yaakov Abanav when God chose the Jewish people? He chose the month of miracles. He chose the concept of beyond nature. He says that doesn't just, it's not just an idea for Nisan. It's just that Nisan emphasizes this idea. It's the Rishon Hulachem. It's the first. It changes all the months of the year. Means if a person may say, okay, the month of Nisan, and sometimes we talk like that the Avod of Tishrei is one way, the Avod of Nisan is another way. But when the Rebbe says, the way we're standing now in Parshas Hachodesh, when it says Hachodesh is Elechem, Rishon Hu Lechem L'Chadshei Shana, Rishon from the word Rosh, the head, it's not just that this is the month of miracles. This is where the idea of the choice in the concept of redemption and miracles is now going to be everywhere. The point over here is not, like I just said, that Nisan is an exception of the rest of the time, that when regularly I'm falling under the stresses and limitations of nature. Comes the month of Nisan, I get a relief. I get the concept of miracles. This is a month of redemption. And it's only for Yaakov and his children. From Chodesh Nisan, it gives energy and vitality of the concept of redemption to the rest of the months, not just to the Jewish people, the whole world. Means what the Rebbe is saying is that we should be Bachar Yaakov and Vanov. It's not that God made an isolated choice in Yaakov and his sons, leaving the world as is, and choosing the month of Nisan, leaving the rest of the months as is. Once God chose the Jewish people and chose the month of Nisan, the world is able to be elevated. That's why the idea of Mashiach is not an isolated incident. The whole world is going to see that the word of God. From Chodesh Nisan, we draw the concept of Geulah and the Bechirim, Yaakov Abanav, the choice in Yaakov and his sons for all the months of the year, and it affects the whole world. That the whole world should experience and be conscious of the concept of higher than nature that's within creation. That's done through the strength of the Jewish people, through the avodah of Torah mitzvahs. And God chose. The Rebbe is stressing the concept of choice. We're not going to get into the whole idea of free choice, but the choices means that there's the choice could have gone the other way. Meaning to say that God wanted that the concept of Geulah. The Medrash is saying two statements. Medrash says, when God chose the world, He created the concept of time, space, and seasons. When God chose the Jewish people, He introduced the concept of Geulah. But He could have introduced the concept of Geulah without choosing the Jewish people, hypothetically. So what the Rebbe is saying is, but it's the way Geulah comes through the Jewish people. Right? Our redemption comes through the Jewish people. The world's redemption comes through the Jewish people through the avodah of Torah mitzvahs. Not that the world is going to be redeemed. It's how it's going to be redeemed. That's also important. The Alter Rebbe said that when the Baal Shem Tov taught about Hashgacha Pratis, the divine, it's not just that everything is by divine providence, but also the how is also important. It's not so much important that you go from point A to point B, right? That the leaf went from the leaf was over here, now it's over there. I was over here, now I'm over there. But how did you get there? That's also important. That's also part of the story. So now the Rebbe continues. That's the story of Pesach. Right after God gave the mitzvah to Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron of Hachodesh Elechem, this is the new month of the Jewish people, introducing the concept of the Bechira, the choice in the Jewish people, and introducing the concept of Geulah. The Korban Pesach, then following that comes the commandment of the Paschal Lamb. On the 10th of the month. Incidentally, we once spoke, I remember Reb Shimon's here in the meeting, in the class, we were trying to figure out why don't we celebrate the day the Jewish people entered Eretz Yisrael. So yesterday on the radio, there was a lot of uproar about that the day of the Jewish people entered Eretz Yisrael, means 40 years later, was on the 10th of Nisan. That's why the right away spoke about Korban Pesach, and that's very much connected to the 10th of Nisan of the Korban Pesach. So it comes some sort of celebration, and everyone was trying to get excited about this year, the 10th of Nisan. All right. So Shmiyad la'achar shenemar Hachodesh hazeh lechem nemer atziva de Korban Pesach be'esel Hachodesh, on the 10th of the month, v'yikchulam ish seh. Each person should take a sheep. What was the whole idea of taking the sheep and putting it next to your bed 5 days, right? They had a 10th, 11th, 12th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. And the 14th day only they slaughtered. For 5 days, the sheep stand there. So it's very easy to have courage for a moment. But to have courage for 5 days, when everything calms down and the Egyptians start getting upset, why you have sheep tied to your bed and we worship the sheep, that takes a lot of courage. So it says, what are they showing with this courage? They're not getting affected, they're not getting overwhelmed by the energy of the world. We need this energy today. So much so, they took a sheep, which is Avodah Zarah, the deity of the Mitzrim, of the Egyptians. The Kasher Bikari Mita, tied it to their bed. Must have been an interesting experience to go to sleep then. When the Egyptians asked them what's going on, all these midrashim, when you analyze them just in the simplicity of it, gets a little funny. How would the Egyptians know what's tied in their bed? Either way, they say, Zevach Pesach Hu Hashem. This is we're about to sacrifice a sacrifice. Not only couldn't the Egyptians object and say, 1 second, what are you taking my Avodah Zarah, my idol, and you're tying it to your bed? I mean, what kind of idea is that? And then you're going to sacrifice it after 5 days. It caused an uproar. The Egyptians realized from this that the redemption is coming. And the firstborn said, what do you mean? What's going on? So they said, well, we were doing a Paschal lamb, and at the end of that, there's going to be the last plague of the death of the firstborn, because we know that Moshe Rabbeinu never went back to tell Paro about the last Makkah. He only told Paro about the last Makkah, about the last while he was about to be thrown out for the plague of darkness. So at the end, when he told him there's going to be a plague of darkness, he told him there's also going to be a plague of the final of the death of the firstborn. But evidently, the message.
Backing up, what did you mean? What was it that you said that we need this energy today? What energy? Can you elaborate a little?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into off topic, but the idea is that we need this energy where you're not missing the spall. We have to stay focused. And the spall means that we're not overwhelmed. We stay focused on what we have to do, whatever that is. A person, a lot of times we're under pressures of what's going on and outside forces. We cave in. And
I understand now.
Okay, so when something has to be done, you have to have the courage. So what happened? So the Egyptians didn't start, fighting with the Jews. They started to fight with Egypt. They said, "What's going on? Let them out. We're about to die." Egypt went to battle with her firstborn. Alter brings down halacha. What's Shabbos Hagadol? That this shows how their attitude of being not nispal, not being overwhelmed, not being intimidated by the limitations of the world, penetrated the world, and the world responded by saying, "Let them go," instead of saying, "Get out of here, get the sheep, untie the sheep now." The Rebbe says, "What's the lesson to us today?" This has to be a lesson every single individual. The Torah is not a story of once upon a time. The Torah is everlasting. And the lessons, the message of the Torah is for everlasting. This is the Rebbe spoke at this point many times, that the beginnings of the redemptions of the change, the winds of change, didn't happen when we walked out on the 15th. That already started before with the plagues, and even more than started now in the beginning of Nisan. Even when we're still in exile. The redemption has not yet happened. So a person may say, so there's no redemption. A person you have to go with Teva, you have to go with nature. Where do I have the chutzpah to say no? Where do I have the chutzpah to say I have to do what the Torah says? We must learn today from the attitude of the Jewish people and their behavior in the time of the final days of the exile of Egypt. 15 days before the final redemption, on the first of the month of Nisan. They were still in Geulah. And we know that it wasn't like the Geulah started. The Jewish people could not leave until the 15th. It says exactly the moment, the time of redemption, means that God couldn't take them out a minute earlier because the time of redemption hadn't come yet. The Gezerah, whatever, the idea of Gullus was up until the 15th, which means that in the first of the month, we were still full force Gullus. But nevertheless, already on the beginning of the month of Nisan. We were still in Egypt, in the exile of Egypt, not technically only. The redemption only happened on the 15th. God said, no, we're already now breaking the laws of nature. First, we got the message that this is the month of redemption. You may not see the redemption yet, but this is the month of redemption. This is the Bechira, God choosing the Jewish people, that through the Jewish people come Geulah, and Geulah comes into the whole world. Redemption comes to the whole world. And after that comes the commandment of Korban Pesach, to take the Paschal lamb. And when they got this message from God through Moshe, the Jewish people says, absolutely, we're not going to be overwhelmed with what the Egyptians are going to say. Like I said before, go ahead.
Yeah, the redemption was just for the Jews in that case, but the final redemption is supposed to be for everybody.
Everyone. The final redemption will be for everyone, yes. The Rebbe says this has to be our attitude today, like I said. Even if we're still in Gullus. Not just technically, we're in Gullus. We have to be strong and not to be overwhelmed by foreign ideas or foreign pressures. Our attitude has to be beyond the laws of nature. Not reckless, obviously, but beyond the laws of nature of what has to be done. And that attitude itself is Yisbatul, will nullify all the things that are confusing, that get in the way. It's not just a moment of Rosh Chodesh Nisan. This brings an energy and to have this attitude for the rest of the year. The way we act throughout the year is with the energy and the mindset of Nisan. Should be beyond the laws of nature. When we have that attitude, that's our approach. God responds to how we feel, or how we act. Then God gives us that everything's going to be broad, just like our attitude is broad, so God gives us broadness. If a person needs health, so you get locked into a space because the laws of nature are saying that the health is a problem. Have harchava doesn't mean you don't go to the doctor, you don't take the medicine, but your attitude, you don't get overwhelmed. You go further doing what you have to do. So then Hashem acts like that also. It helps you in the bria. Same idea with parnasa. Don't let the stress of parnasa dictate how you're going to, but you have to get done. Like the Gemara says, the Rebbe always quoted Chaya, Bani, Mezayna, that all the things that we need that are represented in the three fundamental groups of life and children, and sustenance. Life is health and long life, and children, that we should have blessed with children. Sustenance, we should have what to feed them and to eat. But all of them should be revichin in abundance. This becomes the preparation. The Rebbe says emphasizes not just the preparation, but the vessel. You must create vessels for a blessing to take place. That we should reach the matzav to the situation. The Be'asr Hachodesh. Well, maybe they're onto something in the radio. That on the 10th of the month, until from the 10th of the month till the 15th of the month, as was in the time when we left Egypt, because the verse says it's not just an isolated concept that we're learning about, that we're comparing the redemption of once upon a time to the redemption of today. But the verse says, 25, in Micha, just as the days of Egypt, when you left Egypt, I will show miracles and wonders. Yisrael today, there's a lot of tension. The Eibush is going to show wonders. Bisman Azet today, like it says, Benisin Nigalu, we were redeemed in Nisan, but Benisin Masidin Lehigoyal, and in the month of Nisan we will be redeemed. Adei Mashiach Tzidkenu, through the righteous Mashiach, no one else, Bekarav Mamish, may it be speedily in our times. So that's a beautiful sikha from the Rebbe, opening up the talks. He goes into more at length, and the Maimer he goes into this idea more at length in Hachodesh, in this week's idea. I wanted to learn a little more, but we don't have time. In the second part of the Maimer, go ahead, Aaron.
You mentioned all the things, but there's no mention of learning for this redemption. You mentioned everything but learning.
We're learning as part of the avodah that we have to do. Everyone has to learn Torah mitzvahs. It's learning.
Yeah, we know that, but I'm saying the last statement you made about those three things that we had to have, and then there was no mention of learning.
Those are not things that we have to do. Those are things that God has to do.
Oh, okay. He's teaching us.
I mean, we're the beneficiary of it, but he has to provide us with life. He has to provide us with children, and he has to provide us with parnasa, with sustenance. When we learn Torah, we make broad vessels, then we'll be a vessel for his blessings of Bani Chaim Zayna.
Gotcha.
What were you saying about the radio? Something on the radio? Was there onto something?
They were talking yesterday. I listened to the radio that we once had a discussion in one of our classes why the 10th of them, why don't we celebrate the day we entered Eretz Yisrael? We don't find it's a day of celebration. Like that, the whole point of everything was that Avram Avinu, before anything started, was that we're going to go into the land. The Jewish people are going to go into the land. So we never find that there's a celebration for the day we entered the land. We know when we entered the land is the 10th of Nisan, but there's no celebration about it. The 10th of Nisan, even when we celebrate the miracle of the Makah Mitzrayim B'Chereim, that the Egyptians went into civil war against each other, it's not always on the 10th of Nisan, because like the Alter Rebbe brings down Shulchan Aruch, the 10th of Nisan is the day that Miriam passes away. So we don't want to, so it wasn't exactly a major holiday. So therefore they do it for the Shabbos before. Always Shabbos before. Sometimes Shabbos is the 10th, like the first year. This year Shabbos is the 10th. Sometimes Shabbos is the 10th, and sometimes this year is exactly the calendar. Sometimes Shabbos is the 10th, and sometimes Shabbos could be another day. But we celebrate the miracle of the Bechorim only on Shabbos. But we don't find that we have a special miracle for the 10th of Nisan, of when they entered the land. But yesterday when I was driving my Talia to school, so the religious radio was going into very much about some way or another, all these guys are figuring out days and numbers, calculations. People like to calculate the whole time that this year there's going to be some big event on the 10th of Nisan. May it be. Before the Rebbe always says that when it says Nisan Masidin Ligol, we will be redeemed in Nisan, that we don't have to wait till Nisan to be redeemed. We could be redeemed right now. And then obviously by the time Nisan comes around, we'll be redeemed. All right, everyone. Laila Tov and good Shabbos and a happy Shabbos Hachodesh. Take care.
Thank you. You too.